I never thought I'd cheer for the sound of handcuffs clicking shut, but when they snapped around Karen's pudgy wrists, it was the sweetest symphony I'd heard in years. She'd spent months turning my life into a corporate nightmare, firing me on a whim and spreading lies that painted me as the villain, all while pocketing kickbacks from shady deals I refused to touch. And now, here she was caught red-handed in my private lake cabin, rifling through the safe I'd booby-trapped with more than just alarms. FBI bait, every last wire, and hidden cam. It started with that god-awful boardroom ambush, the kind of betrayal that hits harder than a sucker punch from a linebacker. Karen, our self-proclaimed Queen Bee CEO of Apex Dynamics, had waddled in like she owned the oxygen in the room, because in her twisted mind, she did. At 5 feet 4 inches and pushing 250 pounds, she wasn't just big. She was a force of unfiltered entitlement, her face perpetually twisted into a scowl that could curdle milk, framed by bleach blonde hair that screamed, "I pay someone else to hate my roots." We'd clashed before. Me, the mid-level accountant who dared question her creative expense reports. But nothing prepared me for the day she decided to erase me from the company ledger altogether. "Mark, you're done," she'd hissed, her voice a venomous whisper that echoed off the glass walls of the Chicago high-rise. The board was on Zoom, faces blurred into pixels of feigned shock, but I could smell the setup from a mile away. Embezzlement. That's what the auditors found. Pack your shit and pray the feds don't come knocking. Embezzlement? Me? The guy who'd flagged her own offshore accounts 6 months back, only to get buried under HR paperwork and passive-aggressive emails about team spirit. She leaned in close, her floral perfume, a cloying mix of desperation and department store clearance, wafting over me like a toxic fog. And don't think about bad-mouthing me on LinkedIn. I've got friends in low places. I didn't fight it. Not there, not in front of the virtual vultures circling for my carcass. Instead, I nodded, signed the NDA with a flourish that hid my trembling hand, and walked out of Apex Dynamics for the last time, the autumn wind off Lake Michigan whipping my tie like it was trying to strangle me. Fired at 42, with a mortgage, a kid in college, and a wife who'd already started sleeping on the couch. But Karen? She celebrated with a company-wide email about fresh starts and a bottle of Veuve Clicquot she probably expensed as morale booster. Little did she know, I've been building my own fresh start, a revenge plot so meticulously layered it could have been a Tom Clancy novel. That night, as rain pelted the windows of my modest Evanston bungalow, I cracked open my laptop and stared at the grainy feed from the cabin cams. The place was my sanctuary, a weathered A-frame on the shores of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, 2 hours north, bought with an inheritance from my dad, the kind of spot where city stress melted into the mist off the water. No one knew about it, not even Lisa, my soon-to-be ex. I'd installed the security system myself after a string of burglaries up there last summer. Motion sensors, HD cams, and a safe bolted into the cabin's crawl space, stuffed with documents I'd squirreled away. Proof of Karen's Ponzi-level schemes, emails, ledgers, even a flash drive with wire transfer logs that could sink her faster than the Titanic. The feed flickered to life, and there she was, Karen's bloated silhouette creeping up the gravel path under a sliver of moon, her SUV's headlights long since killed. What the hell? She'd tailed me once, I knew that. Spotted her Lincoln Navigator lurking outside my office the week before the axe fell. But this? Breaking and entering? My heart hammered as I watched her fumble with a lockpick set, her sausage fingers slipping on the tools like she was trying to thread a needle in the dark. She'd gotten in somehow, maybe bribed the caretaker, or hell, hacked the county records for the address. Greed makes monsters of us all, but Karen? She was born one. I didn't call the cops. Not yet. Instead, I forwarded the clip to my contact at the FBI Chicago field office, Agent Reyes, a no-nonsense Latina who'd taken my anonymous tip about Apex's irregularities 6 months back and run with it. "Keep feeding me crumbs, Mark," she'd said over burner phones, her voice like gravel under tires. "We'll bake the cake." This wasn't just crumbs. This was the whole damn bakery. By dawn, a black Suburban was parked a quarter-mile from the cabin, lenses trained on the tree lean. And me? I drove north, Windows down, classic rock blasting to drown out the rage bubbling in my gut. Time to watch the show. Pulling up to the cabin at noon the next day, the air crisp with pine and the faint rot of fallen leaves, I killed the engine and listened. Nothing but loons calling across the water, mocking the silence. Karen had bolted after her midnight raid. Left the safe ajar, papers scattered like confetti from hell. But she'd taken the flash drive. Rookie mistake. I cloned it weeks ago, stashed the original in a bank vault downtown. What she didn't know was the safe's false bottom, rigged with a GPS tracker the size of a quarter, pinging her every move to Reyes' dashboard. I spent the afternoon fortifying. More cams in the pines, a drone for aerial sweeps, and a six-pack of IPAs to steady my nerves. Lisa called twice, sobbing about the divorce papers I'd finally mustered the balls to serve, but I let it go to voicemail. This wasn't about us anymore. It was about the witch who'd hexed my whole world. By evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the lake in bloody oranges, my phone buzzed. Reyes, she's moving. Back to the city. We got eyes on her. Karen's empire was crumbling faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. Apex Dynamics, on paper a powerhouse in logistics software, was rotten to the core. Kickbacks from Chinese suppliers, falsified SEC filings, and a slush fund Karen used like her personal ATM. I'd uncovered it piecemeal. A $2 million consulting fee to a shell company in the Caymans, wired the day after I raised flags in a budget meeting. She'd laughed it off then, her double chin jiggling like jello. Mark, honey, stick to spreadsheets. The big picture's not for boys like you. But the big picture? It was a noose, and I've been tying the knot. That first night back in the city, I holed up in a Fleabag motel off I-94, the kind with stains on the carpet that told stories no one wanted to hear. The TV droned, Fox News, some pundit railing about corporate greed in an election year. But my focus was on the laptop, streaming live from the tracker. Karen's navigator slunk into the underground garage of her Gold Coast condo, a gleaming tower that screamed old money she hadn't earned. Cameras caught her heaving ass first out of the car, the flash drive clutched in her meaty fist like it was the Holy Grail. She glanced around, paranoia etching deeper lines into her Botox-smooth forehead, then vanished into the elevator. Reyes texted coordinates. FBI techs were already slicing in her network, fishing for the motherlode. She's sloppy, the agent messaged. Uploaded the files to her cloud. We're in. I pictured it. G-men in tactical vests, hunched over screens in a van that looked like every other service truck on Michigan Avenue. Karen, oblivious, probably cracking open a magnum of Chardonnay, toasting her victory over the little accountant who dared defy her. But victory? That's not how it played out. By morning, the headlines were whispering, Apex Dynamics under federal probe. Anonymous sources, of course. Reyes' team leaking just enough to spook the board without tipping their hand. Karen's response was pure her. A blistering all-hands email, copied to every soul from interns to investors, blaming disgruntled ex-employees and vowing to root out the cancer. Cancer? Pot, meat kettle. I laughed so hard root beer shot out my nose. Alone in that motel room with nothing but a vending machine burrito for company. The backlash hit like a freight train. Social media erupted. Karen Gate trending on X, with memes of her waddling through boardrooms captioned, when the CEO's diet is 100% embezzled funds. Old colleagues piled on, the ones she'd bullied into silence. Tales of unpaid overtime, sexist quips disguised as jokes, and that time she fired a pregnant dev for looking tired. I stayed dark, no posts, no gloating. Let the mob do the work. My role was the ghost in the machine. 2 days in, she cracked. The tracker pinged a frantic zigzag from condo to Apex HQ, then a screeching U-turn to O'Hare. Flight logs showed a one-way to Miami, probably her bolt hole, a timeshare bought with funny money. But Reyes was steps ahead. Roadblock at the tolls, she updated. Stadi's pulling her over for a routine check. I imagined the scene. Karen's face purpling behind the wheel, spittle flying as she demanded her lawyer, only to find her phone dead, jammed by feds. They found the drive in her purse, along with a Beretta she'd no business owning, serial number filed off like her conscience. Interrogation footage leaked weeks later, blurry, black and white, but clear enough to see the Karen facade shatter. Sweat beading on her upper lip, she blubbered about pressures of leadership, how I'd framed her with planted evidence. Lies, all of it, but the feds had the receipts. Timestamps matching her cabin break-in to my tipped-off call, her digital fingerprints all over the uploads. "You think you're clever, Mark?" she'd snarled in a voicemails I'd saved, voice slurred for whatever pills she popped to sleep. "I'll bury you." Buried? Nah, I was the one shoveling dirt on her grave. The trial was a circus, 6 months of humid Chicago summers turning the courthouse into a pressure cooker. I testified, voice steady as I laid out the ledgers, the emails, the safe's inventory log showing her grubby prints on every damning page. Jurors, blue-collar folk from the South Side, the kind who dealt with Karens at the DMV, didn't buy her waterworks. Entitlement's a hell of a drug, one whispered post-verdict as the foreman read guilty on all counts. Fraud, obstruction, even a bonus charge for the illegal firearm. Sentencing day, she waddled to the stand in an ill-fitting Chanel suit, eyes puffy from crying jags that fooled no one. The judge, a grizzled vet with zero patience for white-collar sob stories, hammered the gavel on 15 years, no parole. "Ms. Hargrove," he drawled, "you didn't just steal money. You stole trust. From your employees, your shareholders, and worst of all, from the system that gave you a shot." Karen collapsed, wailing like a toddler denied candy, her lawyer patting her back as deputies hauled her away. I watched from the back row, anonymous in a sea of reporters, a ghost finally exorcised. But revenge isn't a clean high. It's a slow burn that leaves ashes. Apex folded under the scandal, jobs vaporized like mine had been, good people scattered to the winds. Lisa finalized the divorce quietly, taking the house but leaving me the dog, a golden retriever named Scout who sensed the darkness in me and licked it away one slobbery kiss at a time. I landed on my feet, eventually a quiet gig at a nonprofit in Milwaukee, crunching numbers for causes that mattered, not crooks. Karen rotted in Alderson, that federal camp for white-collar witches, her letters to the judge pleading innocence gathering dust. Last I heard, she ballooned another 50 pounds, comfort food her only consolation. Me? I sold the cabin, too many ghosts in the pines, but kept the lake in my rear view, a reminder that sometimes the underdog bites back hardest. And when the scars itch, I pour a whiskey, toast to the handcuffs, and whisper, "Gotcha, you magnificent bitch." Looking back, the real hook wasn't the break-in or the bust. It was the months leading up to it, the slow poison of working under Karen that turned a decent guy into a man who'd smile at another's downfall. Apex Dynamics wasn't always a snake pit. Back when I started in 18, it was a scrappy startup in the loop, all open-plan desks and free kombucha on tap. Karen slithered in as CEO 2 years later, parachuted from some failed venture in Silicon Valley. Her resume padded with buzzwords like disruptive innovator and synergy architect. From day one, she reshaped us in her image. Meetings that dragged till 8 p.m., inspiration retreats to her Hamptons share, expensed naturally, and a culture where questioning her was career suicide. I was the numbers guy, the one who made the math work when her pie-in-the-sky pitches threatened to bankrupt us. Weed, but heads early. Me pointing out how her aggressive growth meant cooking the books, her dismissing it with a wave of her manicured claw. "Mark, darling, numbers are flexible. Vision isn't. Flexible? That's code for fraudulent, and I knew it. But bills don't pay themselves, so I swallowed it, logged the discrepancies in an encrypted journal on my home server, and prayed for a white knight investor to call her bluff. The white knight never came. Instead came the layoffs, waves of them, timed to quarterly earnings to boost her bonus. She'd announced them with crocodile tears, hugging the survivors while her HR lackeys boxed up the losers' desks. I survived 3 rounds, each time earning a gold star for loyalty, but it hollowed me out. Colleagues whispered about her pill habit, Xanax chased with Red Bull, fueling rants that left interns in tears. One kid, fresh out of DePaul, quit after she called him a diversity hire in a pitch to VCs. "We need real talent, not quotas," she'd sneered, loud enough for the whole floor to hear. Backlash? Minimal. Karen was untouchable. Her daddy is state senator who'd greased palms from Springfield to D.C. My breaking point hit in April, during tax season crunch. I'd stayed late, auditing a vendor payment that smelled fishier than a bait shop. $500,000 to Global Sync Partners, a P.O. box in Delaware with no website. Digging deeper, I traced it to a numbered account in Zurich. Karen's signature on the wire request, dated the same day as her girl's trip to Europe. Heart pounding, I copied the files to my drive, emailed an anonymous tip to the SEC hotline, and clocked out at 2 a.m., the city lights blurring through exhaustion. She knew. Of course she did. By Monday, IT had audited my machine, claiming a virus from a phishing link I'd clicked. Bullshit. I don't click squat without VPN. Then came the whispers. Mark's unstable. Mark's bitter about his divorce. Mark's eyeing the exit door. Lisa and I were rocky, sure. Nights arguing over my hours. Her resentment building like storm clouds. But unstable? That was projection, Karen style. The firing was surgical. She called me into her corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the skyline like a kingdom she ruled. Plush leather chairs, a crystal decanter of scotch she poured for herself, but not me. "We've got a problem," she started, sliding a folder across the desk. Forged emails, timestamps doctor to show me siphoning petty cash into a fake PayPal. "This looks bad, Mark. Real bad." Her eyes, small and piggy behind designer frames, gleamed with triumph. I flipped through it, stomach churning. Photoshopped headers, IP addresses routed through proxies. Amateur hour, but convincing to a board scared of headlines. "Fight it," I said, voice flat. "Call the auditors back in." She laughed, a bark that echoed off the glass. "Auditors? Honey, I am the auditor. Sign here, and we'll call it a mutual parting. Severance, references, the works. Lies. The severance was 3 months, pay minus administrative fees, and references? She'd poison any well I approached. But what choice? Walk out screaming, and I'd be the unhinged ex-employee with an axe to grind. Sign, and I bought time to fight smart. Driving home that night, rain slicking the Kennedy Expressway, I pulled over near a McDonald's, puked into a gutter. Not from fear, from fury. This woman, who'd never earned a callus in her life, was dismantling mine brick by brick. Lisa was waiting, arms crossed, the divorce conversation we'd dodged for months hanging unspoken. "It's over, isn't it?" she said, not a question. I nodded, collapsed on the couch, Scout curling at my feet like he knew the pack was fracturing. That's when the cabin called. Dad's old place, deeded to me after his stroke in 15, a log retreat with a dock that creaked under your weight, the kind of spot where Hemingway could have written but probably drank instead. I hadn't been up since spring, but now? It was fortress and foxhole. I spent the weekend hauling boxes. The journal, clone drives, even a .38 revolver Dad kept for critters. Installed the cams via YouTube tutorials. Wired the safe to a Raspberry Pi that beamed alerts to my phone. Paranoia? Maybe. But when your enemy's a cornered rat like Karen, you don't skimp on cheese. Back in the city, the probe simmered. Reyes reached out via a dead drop, coffee shop napkin with a number scribbled in Sharpie. "You're in deep," she said over the line, voice muffled by traffic noise. "But useful. Keep the feeds coming." Useful. That's what I'd become. A snitch with a spine, feeding crumbs to feds who'd bake the case. In return, witness protection if it blew south, but mostly the cold comfort of justice served hot. Karen ramped up the crazy. She started surveilling me, spotters and unmarked cars outside my house, LinkedIn scouts friending my contact for dirt. One night, a brick through the living room window, traitor scrawled in red lipstick. Lisa packed a bag that hour, scout in tow, heading to her sister's in Naperville. "Fix this, Mark, or there's nothing left to fix." I wanted to God I did, but the die was cast. I moved to a sublet in Wicker Park, cash only, burner phone my lifeline. The break-in feed hit at 1:17 a.m., 3 weeks post-firing. I was nursing a bourbon in the dark, scrolling job boards that ghosted my apps, when the app chimed, motion at cabin door. Grainy night vision showed her, Karen, in yoga pants stretched to bursting and a hoodie that swallowed her bulk, jimmying the lock with tools from Amazon's hobbyist section. She moved like a burglar in a bad sitcom, tripping over roots, cursing under her breath. Inside, she beelined for the safe, code wrong on the first 3 tries. My birthday, asshole's guess. 4th time, she cracked it, pawing through files with greedy grunts. I watched live, frozen, as she pocketed the drive, rifled for cash, found none, sucker, and froze at a photo, me and Dad on the dock, fish in hand. Her face twisted. Hatred? Regret? Hard to tell in pixels. Then she was gone, SUV crunching gravel into the night. I forwarded it all to Reyes before the adrenaline crash hit, collapsing into shakes that rattled the floorboards. Dawn brought clarity. Karen thought she'd won a round, erasing evidence. But that drive? Bait, laced with malware Reyes geeks, cooked up. A Trojan that lit up her devices like a Christmas tree. By noon, feds had her IP, her search history, burner searches for how to destroy USB, her everything. The noose tightened and I drove north again, the lake's calm mocking the storm in my soul. Payback's a bitch, Karen, and she's got your name tattooed on her knuckles. The feds' net closed slow, deliberate, like a python squeezing the life from prey that thrashed too late. Karen's Miami jaunt was the first real slip, booked on a company card hours after the leak hit Drudge Report. Apex execs in crosshairs of fraud probe. She boarded a red-eye, Chanel carry-on stuffed with wads of cash skimmed from the slush fund. But the gate agent? An undercover, stalling with ID verification, while SWAT rolled up quiet. No dramatic takedown. Just a polite escort to a black SUV, her protest drowned by the roar of jets. Interviews painted her unraveling. First denial, bluster about witch hunts and liberal media, then cracks, naming names to flip, starting with her COO, a weasel who'd golfed with her at Pebble Beach. But the Queen stayed mum on the big fish, senators, lobbyists, the web of influence that had shielded her for years. Reyes kept me looped via encrypted texts. She's lawyering up with the best, scatting ARPs, $1,000 per hour. But we've got the cabin footage. Ironclad. Ironclad. The word echoed as I rebuilt my life in fragments. Temp gigs at a loop temp agency, evenings walking scout along the lakefront, dodging memories of boardroom battles. Public opinion turned savage. Late-night hosts roasted her, Colbert dubbing her Embezzolina Jolie, Kimmel splicing her waddle with clips of penguins fleeing predators. X was a bonfire. Justice for Mark. Someone doxed my firing story. Viral threads dissecting her Instagram. Yacht selfies captioned hustle culture. Now memes with hustle to prison overlays. Feminists called her out for undermining Me Too with her bully tactics. Conservatives decried her as woke capitalism gone wrong. Even her alma mater, Northwestern, scrubbed her donor plaque after alumni donations dried up. Karen fought dirty. From holding, her attorneys subpoenaed me. Fishing expedition for defamatory leaks. I lawyered up pro bono, a ACLU shark who smelled blood. Depositions were theater, her glaring daggers across the table, me reciting facts like scripture. Ms. Hargrove, care to explain the $750,000 wire to your cousin's consulting firm? Her lawyer objected. Judge overruled. Sweat beaded on her forehead, foundation cracking like her alibis. The real gut punch came mid-trial, when evidence dropped her accomplices like dominoes. The COO sang first, trading 10 years for immunity, testimony that Karen ordered the cabin hit after spotting my suspicious weekend drives on traffic cams. She said, "Give me everything. Burn it if you have to." Burn it? The cabin held Dad's letters, yellowed pages from Nom warning about snakes in suits. She'd have torched my history for her future. Jury selection dragged, 12 Midwesterners, diverse as a Cracker Barrel menu, vetted for bias. Mine? A nurse who'd lost her savings to a Ponzi. She nodded at my testimony, eyes hard. Karen's team painted her as victim, stressed single mom, 2 kids by different daddies, neither in the picture, target of sexist tropes. But the body cam from a pull-over killed that. Her shrieking, "Do you know who I am?" at troopers, slurring through mimosas she'd chugged in the air. Opening arguments set the tone. Prosecution's DA, a bulldog from Cabrini Green, eviscerating her empire as a house of cards built on backs like Mr. Harlan's. Defense? Whiny pleas for mercy, flashing baby pics that made jurors shift uncomfortably. My turn on the stand. 3 hours under lights, hot as interrogation, voice cracking only once, recounting the brick through my window, the fear that choked family holidays. Karen disrupted twice, gasping theatrically. Judge threatened contempt. Cross-exam was brutal. Her silk-stocking counsel twisted my divorce into motive for fabrication, implying I'd planted the evidence to get even with a strong woman. Gaslighting 101, but the jury saw through. The forewoman, a black teacher from Englewood, rolled her eyes so hard I caught it from 20 feet. I held firm. Strong? Try tyrannical. She didn't just steal money. She stole dignity. Closing hit like thunder. DA replayed the cabin feed. Karen's bulk silhouetted, greed incarnate. Overlapping audio of her voicemails. I'll ruin you, Mark. Enjoy your cardboard box. Defense whimpered about context, but context was irrelevant when the safe's RFID logged timestamp her entry at 1:17 a.m., exit at 1:42, drive in pocket. Deliberations stretched 2 days. Thanksgiving weekend, jurors holed up in a hotel with turkey TV dinners. I paced my sublet, Scout whining at the door, Lisa texting olive branches I ignored. Verdict dropped at 4 p.m. Black Friday. Guilty, 18 counts, from wire fraud to evidence tampering. Karen's scream echoed down the hall. Raw, animal, as she lunged at the bar, deputies pinning her flailing arms. Bail denied. She shipped to MCC, the concrete beast on the west side where white-collar dreams go to die. Media scrumbed the doors, mics thrusting like bayonets. I slipped out a side exit, Reyes clapping my shoulder. You did good, Harlan. Real good. Good? It felt hollow, a victory carved from loss. But as I drove to the lake one last time, snow dusting the pines, I scattered Dad's ashes off the dock, finally free. Sentencing was anticlimax, a formality in a federal courtroom smelling of old law books and fresh varnish. January chill seeped through the windows, frosting the Chicago River view as Karen shuffled in, orange jumpsuit straining at the seams, hair a greasy mop without her stylist's magic. She'd lost weight, 20 pounds, whispers said, from jail slop and stress, but gained jowls, her face sagging like melted wax. No Chanel today, just shackles clinking with each mincing step. The gallery buzzed. Ex-colleagues turned state's evidence, a smattering of reporters with notepads, one tabloid fatigue snapping her double take. I sat mid-row, Scout's leash looped around my ankle. He'd gotten special dispensation, emotional support furball. Lisa was there too, in the back, our first eye contact since the split. Her nod was tentative, a bridge maybe worth crossing later. Judge O'Malley presided, a silver fox with a rep for no-nonsense. Sentenced Blagojevich, eyed the bench for hire. He scanned the PSR, 200 pages of Karen's sins. Net worth $14 million pre-bust, now frozen. Victim statements from 300-plus employees, including mine. Mr. Harlan, he'd prompted pre-hearing impact. I typed it out. Nights sleepless, trust shattered, a man unmade. Read aloud, it hung heavy. Karen's allocution was pathos porn. Sniffling into a tissue, voice quavering about poor choices and holding family accountable. Family? Her kids testified via video. Teens in private school uniforms, mumbling about mommy's mistakes, but the judge's eyes glazed. Then her lawyer, silver-tongued as ever. Your Honor, Ms. Hargrove's a first-time offender, pillar of community. Community? The soup kitchen photo ops, sure, but we'd subpoenaed the donor lists, checks bouncing post-scandal. Prosecution countered fierce. Exhibits of ledgers, victim letters, the cabin vid looping her theft. This wasn't mistake, Your Honor. This was malice. A CEO who preyed on loyalty, broke into a man's sanctuary, risked lives for lucre. Malice. The word landed like a slap. Karen flinched, dabbing futilely at tears. O'Malley cleared his throat, voice gravel over silk. Ms. Hargrove, you've abused power not just professionally, but personally. Mr. Harlan's cabin wasn't mere property. It was refuge. You violated that, and in doing so, the trust of everyone under your thumb. Pause, gallery holding breath. 20 years, Bureau of Prisons. Restitution, full, to every victim. No fine, your assets speak louder. 20. The hammer fell. Karen crumpled, hull muffled by bailiff's hand. Chaos. Flashes popping, her lawyer yelling appeals, deputies frog-marching her out. I stood frozen, Scout whining at the drama, until Reyes tugged my elbow, outside. Now, in the hall, she handed a thumb drive. Redacted case files might get out of jail free for future threats. She's done, Mark. But watch her 6, Karen's breed. Post-sentencing haze, Apex liquidated, proceeds trickling to victims. My cut paid off the truck, seated a 401k. I landed steady at Lakeside Nonprofits, auditing grants for clean water initiatives, numbers serving good for once. Lisa and I, coffee turned to dinners, Scout the matchmaker with his enthusiastic tail wags. No grand reunion, but progress. Therapy unpacking the scars Karen left. Karen? Alderson chewed her up. Inmate leaks painted bleak. Commissary fights over her princess demands. Therapy groups where she played victim to blank stares. Weight yo-yoed. Hair grade. Letters to O'Malley begging mercy ignored. Last dispatch via cousin's ex-post. Suicide watch after a fall. Whispers of regret scrawled on contraband paper. Tell Mark I'm sorry. Sorry? Too late for syllables. Actions echo louder. Me? I bought a new cabin, smaller, in Michigan's up, all birch and blueberry bushes. No safes, just shelf for Dad's books, a dock for lazy casts. Evenings, I grill brats with neighbors, retired cops, flannel philosophers trading yarns over lineicugles. The revenge? It fades, a tattoo blurred by time, replaced by quiet winds. Scout chasing fireflies, Lisa's laugh thawing old ice. But some nights, lake wind whispering through screens, I remember the click of those cuffs. Not triumph, but release. Karen broke in, all right. But the FBI? They broke her. And in the end, that's the American dream. Underdogs rising, bitches falling. Fade to black on that thought, whiskey warm in hand. The end.